There is a very uncomfortable question that nobody is asking about silver. Not retail investors, not the mainstream financial media, and certainly not policymakers, but what if the United States has a clear structural incentive for silver prices to stay low? And what if that incentive is stronger than most people realize? So let's start with the official shift that happened in 2025. For the first time, the United States formally designated silver as a critical mineral. It's not a casual label. Critical mineral status means that the government views that material as essential to national security, economic stability, and strategic infrastructure. Silver is now officially categorized as vital to clean energy systems, semiconductors, electronics, electric vehicles, and even defense applications. That changes everything because once something becomes strategically essential, price volatility is no longer just a market issue. It becomes a policy issue. Now, let's break down why. First, clean energy. Solar panels use roughly 15 to 20 grams of silver per module, period. That's about a half of a troy ounce. If the United States wants to aggressively expand domestic solar capacity, that means tens of millions of panels annually. Let's break it down Barney style. At a $25 silver, I know it's not $25, but this is math. That is manageable, okay? $25 silver. At $75, $100 silver, input costs surge. Even a $25 increase per ounce adds roughly $12 to $15 per panel. Scale that across tens of millions of panels and you're looking at billions of dollars in additional capital expenditures. Now, add in electric vehicles. Silver is used in battery management systems, power electronics, high-performance contacts, charging infrastructure, and advanced circuitry. An EV contains significantly more silver than a traditional internal combustion vehicle. As the US pushes the EV adoption, silver becomes embedded in that transition, and higher silver prices mean higher vehicle costs and lower margins, right? Higher vehicle costs mean greater subsidies, and greater subsidies mean larger federal spending commitments. That's going to hit your tax bill. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, defense. The US defense budget exceeds $800 billion annually from the taxpayers, and that number only continues to grow. Modern military systems are electronics heavy. Missile guidance systems, advanced radar, satellite communications, fighter jet avionics, naval systems. Silver is used in high reliability connectors, aerospace circuitry, radar components, and high performance batteries. Military grade systems, they require silver, not because it's shiny, but because it is the best electrical conductor on Earth. When you're building hypersonic missile guidance or advanced radar systems, you don't substitute copper for silver easily. Now, imagine that the silver price doubles or it triples in price, just like it just did. That cost increase flows directly into procurement contracts, which means that the powers that be pays more, which means Congress appropriates more, which means deficits expand because the United States is still carrying approximately $38 trillion in federal debt. To put it plainly, if silver spikes and pushes up defense procurement costs, clean energy infrastructure costs, EV subsidy costs, and semiconductor production costs, those expenses ultimately feed back into the federal government balance sheet and is taken out of your pocket as a taxpayer. Higher input costs mean larger contracts. Larger contracts mean larger deficits. Larger deficits mean more debt issuance and higher taxes. And more debt issuance means higher interest burden. It's a compounding effect. So the structural incentive, at least for the US, is very clear. The US benefits from affordable silver, not because it dislikes higher prices, but because silver is embedded in strategic spending categories. Now, let's contrast that with gold. Gold rising does not increase defense procurement costs. Gold rising strengthens balance sheets. The United States holds over 8,000 metric tons of gold reserves. At current market prices, that reserve is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. At significantly higher gold prices, that reserve becomes even more valuable. There has even been open discussion in financial circles about revaluing gold on the federal balance sheet, because currently US gold is still carried at roughly $42 per ounce. Market value dramatically higher. Revaluation would instantly improve the asset side of the balance sheet. Now think about the contrast. Gold rising, it improves sovereign asset strength. Silver rising increases sovereign liabilities through procurement and industrial spending and the inputs that come inside of that spending. Gold rising, it's manageable. Silver rising, it's disruptive. Now, bring inventory into the equation. By early 2026, silver inventories on major exchanges had fallen to multi-year lows. Shanghai inventories hit roughly decade lows. London vault stocks tightened and lease rates spiked. The physical market showed stress. Retail saw that and concluded one thing: silver must explode higher. But here's the missing variable. When something becomes strategically critical, governments do not passively accept destabilizing price movements. They encourage domestic mining, they coordinate supply chains, they explore stockpiling, they engage in futures markets indirectly through financial institutions, and they manage. Not necessarily manipulate, but they manage price. And when you combine decade-low inventories with critical mineral designations, that does not necessarily equal price freedom. It may equal strategic oversight. Now, ask yourself a hard question. If silver prices surge to levels that significantly inflate defense budgets, EV subsidies, semiconductor expansion, and clean energy infrastructure, who absorbs that cost? Taxpayers, bondholders, future debt issuance in a $38 trillion debt environment. That kind of pressure is dangerous. Gold going up, that hedges currency debasement. That strengthens reserves. That attracts global capital seeking safety. Silver going up aggressively, that strains budgets. That pressures procurement. That widens deficits. And now I'm not saying that there is an overt price control mechanism. I am saying the incentive structure, it's crystal clear. Silver is now officially strategic. Defense is the largest discretionary expense in the United States. Debt levels, historically extreme. Inventory levels, historically tight. And silver is embedded inside the very systems the government is trying to expand. So when people say silver has a supply deficit, therefore it must go up, they're ignoring the policy dimension. Markets do not operate in a vacuum, especially when they intersect with national security. Gold can rise without destabilizing the system. Silver rising too much forces the system to respond, and that response may not look like free market discovery. It may look like subtle pressure, but the direction of incentive remains the same. Gold rising strengthens balance sheets. Silver rising inflates budgets. But when you follow the incentives, you start to see a more complicated picture. One where gold's strength is tolerable, even beneficial, and silver strength beyond a certain level becomes strategically inconvenient for a lot of people. And when something becomes inconvenient at the sovereign level, it rarely trades without resistance. And if you want the real story of what's moving in the background against you, click the first link in the description and go watch that video, because I can only put so much on this platform. You'll be happy that you did.